So topics that I think will change the way you see the world. Before I get into the video, do not watch this video if you're easily triggered. If a person brings up a piece of information that goes against what the mainstream media says or what you learned in school, or is just a piece of information that you don't hear about it in your everyday life, if stuff like that triggers you, then I suggest you don't watch the video. But if you're open-minded and you can, handle new information being presented to you, and you are able to analyze it and draw your own conclusions from there, then this video is for you. Like I said, I'm just going to go over a few topics that I think are worth looking into. They'll change your world paradigm. They'll change the way you see the world. So I'll just get right to it. The first one is the moon landings. The moon landings were obviously faked. We didn't go to the moon. The moon is not a solid object that you can land on. It's most likely a plasma phenomenon. There's this professor in the 1960s, I believe. They interviewed him, and he said that the plasma moon was the reality of it. That the moon was actually plasma, which is a fourth state of matter. It's very interesting, but I'm sure you never heard about it. It's I think the interview's still here on YouTube. But the moon landings, there's just too many red flags for this to be true. Lost telemetry data, petrified wood, being labeled moon rock. We haven't been there in over 50, 60 years. I mean, the actual footage of us being on the moon, right, quote unquote, is so wonky. It looks so ridiculous. I think it was Buzz Aldrin. He even admitted in a recent interview that we didn't go there. But again, I'm sure you didn't hear about that because it's probably suppressed. That's not the type of news that's going to make it, right, on the mainstream. They're just going to put nonsense on the news to distract you from important topics. They're not going to put anything of value. Or if they do, it's very rare. Again, I think it was Buzz Aldrin. There's this guy who was trying to get him to admit and swear on the Bible that he went on the moon. And the guy just totally loses it, the astronaut, and he punches him in the face. I mean, I can agree with, I don't agree with the guy's approach, the way he went about it. But if you really went to the moon and you have nothing to hide, why didn't you just tell him, okay, I'll swear on the Bible, Too many red flags. We didn't go to the moon. The race of giants and the giant humanity. There are plenty of pictures from the 1800s, even earlier. Even here on Google, you can Google them. But in old textbooks of a giant species of humanity, not the humanity that we know of today. Side by side, this giant people side by side next to a regular person. A regular person is somewhere between 5 feet and 6 feet tall. But these people were just gigantic. They're 7, 8 feet tall. And they didn't look like they suffered from acromegaly. If acromegaly deforms your hands, it deforms your face. These people looked just like you and me, except they were a lot taller. So there's plenty of these pictures going around. That have been around. You can look them up. Again, the giant architecture of past civilizations, giant doorways, stuff that just doesn't make any sense for us to have built. There's no practical purpose to it. You can say that it's for architectural beauty, but again, it's like it's not very practical. These buildings were used for meetings and whatnot. They were like libraries, and these doors are absolutely enormous. Giant blocks of marble that we don't have. There's no possible way that we could have maneuvered these pieces of marble and stone with the technology that we had back then. So it begs the question, who built these structures? Not to mention the bones that have been dug up. There's plenty of evidence for that. The Book of Enoch mentions giants of the past, and it describes them being the offspring of fallen angels and earthly women. stories of Native Americans from the past, plenty of them, talking about giants from the past. Again, there's a lot of evidence here. And there's an interesting quote that goes, stories become tales and then tales become fiction as time passes by. And I think this is one of those cases. You know, we think giant people and giants as, you know, something from fantasy, but if you really look into this topic, it's anything but. Next topic, the Earth's shape. We don't live in a globe. We don't live in an oblate spheroid, as you know, these famous astronauts and physicists like to say. It's complete nonsense. Again, there's no pictures of the Earth from space. All of it is photoshopped. Just go on Google, you'll see that these are just, you know, very clearly not real pictures of the Earth in its entirety. There is pictures of, high elevation pictures, but a lot of these pictures are using fisheye lenses. So there's curvature that is seen in these pictures, but there's people that strap GoPros to amateur weather balloons, and they take them to a distance where you should be able to see the Earth's curvature, but there's anything but curvature. Again, it just doesn't make sense. From anybody's perspective, the Earth is motionless and it's flat. I don't know what the Earth shape is, but it's definitely not a oblate spheroid. It's not a ball spinning in space. There's just a lot of things that are just super silly. This is a big topic that triggers people. Again, if you're open-minded, look into it yourself. You have nothing to lose. What are you scared of? The thing is that sometimes information is so much for people that they get defensive. It's called cognitive dissonance. They're trying to protect the view of the world that they have, and the information that they get is so mind-shattering that they can't take it. So, they've been programmed to resort to attacks and whatnot. So don't be one of those people. Look into it yourself. Again, if there was a landmass on the so-called globe Earth that was all the way in the top, and then there was a landmass all the way in the bottom, if you drilled a hole straight from the top to the bottom, would you come upside down from the bottom, or would you appear upside down to the people that were living on the bottom landmass? Again, it's just a bunch of nonsense. The globe Earth mathematics has been disproven as well. It's supposed to be 8 inches per mile squared of curvature. And again, there's people doing their own experiments with cameras, going to places where there should be curvature, and it should be impossible to see certain structures. And they're just zooming in with these cameras, and they're able to see beyond, So, like I said, so why would people lie about the Earth's shape? It's to keep you feeling like you're insignificant, right? A big, vast universe, never-ending space, as opposed to an enclosed environment, very obviously created. It's to keep you away from God, basically. To keep you feeling like you're small and insignificant. So look into it yourself. Another topic, giant trees of old times. Devil's Tower in Wyoming. The Lebanese flag is a giant tree, a giant cedar tree, I believe. The Venezuela Tepuy Mountains. All these things resemble petrified wood and petrified tree stumps. The Book of Enoch again mentions giant trees of times past. And beyond Antarctica, we're not allowed to go beyond Antarctica. We're not allowed to research what's beyond those lands. Again, Antarctica is not what you've been told it is. It's not a giant ice continent. Well, there's a certain truth to that, but it's not just of barren land that's full of ice somewhere in the South Pole. It's a much bigger thing than that. Again, the truth is told to us in movies like Divergent, and The Maze Runner. In both of these movies, there's parallels between them. The humanity is enclosed by walls, and they're living in a very secluded environment from a larger humanity. Both in Maze Runner and Divergent. So look into these movies. A lot of truth is revealed in them. Why would truth be told to us in certain types of media like movies and music? It has to be. Short answer, it has to be. If you want a more in-depth answer, watch the video called X Factor Winner Reveals World's Secret Religion. It's here on YouTube still. It's a very interesting watch. It's eye-opening. I recommend you look into the Vibes of Cosmos YouTube channel. He talks about a lot of interesting topics like, what the moon really is, what the images on the moon really are, what the sun and moon are, really. It's just a very good YouTube channel. I recommend it. And the last topic that I suggest you look into is, what stars and planets are. Stars and planets, again, they're not what you've been told they are by NASA. NASA says that planets are land masses that you can, that are millions of miles away from us that you can land on. No, they're not. There's people with, again, P9000 cameras, I think they're called, Nixon P9000s, that zoom into stars and planets, and they are completely see-through. They're just shiny little fluorescent balls that are just see-through. Eric Dubai goes into this topic. He has a great video on this topic, so I recommend you watch it. Anyways, those are just some topics that I think will open your eyes and make you see the world in a different way. I hope this video was helpful to somebody out there. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have a good one.